Today in this class we will study another poem called Footprints in the Sand. So many a times we often feel sad and depressed. In such situations, what do you normally do to overcome that situation? Think for a minute and jot down. Okay, you might have come out with one solution. Most of us look up for some kind of solace and comfort. So some people find solutions in the nature or in reading books, and some people may dwell upon the Almighty. So these are some solutions. Now, in this poem, Footprints in the Sand, you will find one solution when you are sad and depressed. This is a very beautiful poem written by Mary Stevenson. Let us know something about the poetess. She was born on 21st August 1896. She was a Scottish born Australian. She is a political and community activist throughout her life. During the Second World War, she was a commandant of a voluntary aid detachment number 750. For her community service, she was awarded and she also received from the renowned societies like Red Cross. She held several high positions in her lifetime. She is more an activist. She is more an activist than a poetess. That means she dedicated her life for active service, than as a poet. Now, let us look at this wonderful poem. So, Footprints in the Sand. It is the title of the poem. The poem begins with the line, "One night I dreamed a dream." So one night the poetess was sleeping and she got a dream. The whole poem narrates her dream. That means whatever she saw in her dream is narrated in the following lines of the poem. In other words, we can say that she is explaining her dream. So she has a dream one night. So what was the dream? As I was walking along the beach with my Lord. So in the dream, the poet is walking along the beach with my Lord, with her God. Lord here means God. So she is walking along a beach. Across the dark sky flashed scenes from my life. So, while walking along the beach with the Lord, what happened? The poetess saw in the dark sky scenes from her life. Some scenes were flashing in the dark sky from her life. For each scene, I noticed 2 sets of footprints in the sand. So, when a scene was flashing in the sky, for each scene, the writer noticed 2 sets of footprints in the sand. One belonging to me and one to my love. So one footprint belonged to the poet and the other belonged to the Lord. That means 2 people are walking along the beach, and across the dark sky there were some scenes flashed from her life, from the poet's life, and the poet noticed 2 sets of footprints, one of the God and the other of the poetess. After the last scene of my life, flashed before me, I looked back at the footprints in the sand. I noticed that at many times along the path of my life, especially at the lowest and saddest times, there was only one set of footprints. So this is the second stanza of the poem. So here, at the last scene of my life, so the scenes were flashing in the sky. Already I told you that the scenes from the poet's life are flashing in the sky. And at the last scene, when the last scene came, I looked back at the footprints. Now the poet again noticed the footprints. And what did she see? I noticed that at many times, so many times the footprints were one set of footprints. When the writer was walking, there were 2 set of for some scenes there were 2 set of footprints, and for some scenes there were single set of footprints. This the poet noticed. So when there were single set of footprints, when there were one set of footprints, only at the times when uh, the writer, the poet was sad, especially at the very lowest and saddest times, when the sad scenes from the life flashed, when the sad scenes from the life flashed, the poet noticed the single set of footprints. Okay, especially in the saddest times, it's clearly given there. So, when she noticed that there were only single set of footprints when she was sad, or lowest times mean when she's her moments in the life gave her some grief, she was depressed, not happy moments. So with this, the writer got troubled. So she continues the theme in the third stanza. This really troubled me. So I asked the Lord about it. Lord, you said once, I decided to follow you. You would walk with me all the way. But I noticed that during the saddest and most troublesome times of my life, there was only one set of footprints. I don't understand why, when I needed you the most, you would leave me. This is the third stanza. So, when the poet noticed that there was a single set of footprints in the difficult times, this troubled her. And she questioned the Lord about it. She wanted to ask the Lord why. And she asked in the following lines: Lord, you said once I decided to follow you, you would walk with me all the way. So generally, in the old scriptures, it is written that if we follow the Lord always helps us in times of trouble. It's generally written like this. It is generally said. So here the writer is asking the same thing. You already told me that you will help me. Okay. So the Lord helps the followers. The God helps the followers if they follow Him. So our poet also decided to follow the God. But I noticed that during the saddest and most troublesome times of my life, what I noticed during the sad times and most troublesome times of my life, that means during the most difficult times, when I needed your help, when I was in trouble, there was only one set of footprints. So there was only a single set when I was in trouble. I don't understand why, when I needed you the most, you would leave me. So she is asking, questioning the Lord, that I don't understand. I don't know why you left me. when I needed you the most, when I felt the need of you. I followed you, you should help me. So, when I needed help from you, you left me. And I found only single set of footprints. So, the writer is surprised and she is questioning the Lord. The next stanza, and this is the most beautiful, wonderful stanza of this poem. He whispered. So, when the follower asked the question, the Lord is saying these words. He whispered, "My precious child, I love you and will never leave you. Never ever during your trials and testings. When you saw only one set of footprints, it was then that I carried you." So the Lord is answering to the question of the follower. He is whispering, "My precious child." He is calling the poet as a child, my precious child. I love you and will never leave you. I love you and will never leave you. So, the God is saying that he loves the poet very much and will never leave the poet. Always the God is with the poet. Never ever during your trials and testings. So I will never leave you during your trials and testings. Here, trials and testings means difficult situations and problems. So when the writer is facing the difficult situations and testings, she is being tested whether she is able to cope up the difficult situation. So at that time, at such times, when you saw only one set of footprints. So when you are being tested, the God is saying, when the poet is being tested, she saw only one set of footprints. So it was then I carried you. So at the time, I was walking and carrying you. And the footprints which you saw, the one set of footprints which you saw were of mine, were of the Lord. The Lord, in order to help the poet in the difficult situation, he is carrying the poet. So that's why the footprints belong to the Lord and not of the poet. Okay, now I think you have understood the poem. Here the Lord is helping the poet in difficult times, whereas the poet thought that the Lord left her in times of trouble. Okay, so the thinking of the poet is contrary to the action of the God. So this is the poem, beautiful poem by Mary Stevenson. Now I think you have understood the poem very well. Now let us look at the essence of the poem. Now, what is the significance of the first line? See, now we will look at the poem, the first line of the poem. This is the first line of the poem. Yeah. One night I dreamed a dream. This is the first line of the poem. Now let's come to your question. What is the significance of the first line? Why do you think the poet used that line? You think for a minute, jot down the answer. Now let us look at why the poet has used that line. Okay. What would happen if that line is not there in the poem? And what would be our reaction to it? Think of the line. If that line is not there, and what would be our reaction? So the line is introduced in the poem. It has a lot of significance to the poem. Because in the real life, is it possible that somebody walks with the Lord? No, in the real life, nobody walks with the Lord. So, if the writer has used the word, I was walking with the Lord, so what would be the reader's reaction? It would be only fiction. It is not the reality. And the whole essence of the poem would have been disturbed. So to show that it is not reality, that's why the writer used the word dreamed, a dream. So in dreams you can have anything, you can think of anything, you can go to the wildest of your thoughts in the dream. So here with this, the writer is conveying that she is meeting the Lord in the dream, not in the reality, which is not at all possible. That's why the line is used. That is the most significant line in the poem. And it also attaches the reader with the poem. We feel like attaching ourselves. We feel connected with the poem. If the line is not there, then it would have become imaginary, and the whole poem would have been also imaginary. So this line makes us connect with the poem, with the theme of the poem. Again next one. The poetess notices one set of footprints. What would you think in the situation? You think of that you are there in that position And if you see single set of footprints, what would have been your reaction? Just think a minute. Okay, so what could have been your reaction? So there is no correct answer for it because people feel different. Everyone's feelings are different. So here whatever you feel is the correct answer. So you might have felt as the poet felt, or you might have felt angry, you might have felt depressed, or you may not think in the situation as the poet has thought. Okay, so there can be your feelings. What would you think in that situation? It's your thought. Okay, now come to the next question. And what would you say in this situation? Instead of thinking, I ask another question. What would you say in the situation? Then, what would you say in the situation? The same as the poet. You have questioned the poet. She has questioned the poet. You also may question the poet. Or some other thing. The next, think about it. He whispered, my precious child. See, in the last line, let us look at the poem. Here it's there. He whispered, the Lord is whispering, my precious child, I love you and will never leave you. The Lord is answering the poet. So here he is calling the poet as my precious child. Is the speaker a child? No. Now tell me why the God is calling the speaker a child. Think for a minute and jot down. Okay. Why do you think the speaker is called a child? Why do you think so? Because the God is treating the speaker as a child. The God thinks that all the human beings are his children. The Lord is our Father. The God is our Father. So, the Lord is enacting the role of a father. And see, He is the creator. We believe that the Lord is the creator of the world. Now think of yourself. Who is the creator? Who brought you into this world? Your father and your mother. Your parents brought you into this world. So here the father is the creator. Your creator is your father. So here also our Lord is the creator. And as the father looks at the children with love and affection, in the same way the God is looking at the children, that is the poet, with love and affection. As the father cares, the God is also caring. So that's why he is calling the poet as a child. And see, another thing. Generally, when you are in trouble, your father comes for help. He lifts you from your sad moments. He does not give you the trouble. In the same way, here, as a father, the Lord is bringing our poet out of the difficult times. Okay, whatever the difficult times, difficult situations are there, the father takes them and gives happiness to the children. He faces all the difficulty and gives happiness to the children. In the same way, here the God is also taking the difficulty and helping the poet out of the difficult times. That's why he is doing the role of a father. And so that's why he is calling the poet as a child. Now next question. Are footprints in the sand permanent? Think about it. So are footprints in the sand permanent? No. So why do you think here the writer, the poet, has given the title Footprints in the Sand? So as the footprints in the sand are not permanent, in the same way the difficult times in our life are not permanent. Okay. There is a similarity between the footprints in the sand and difficult situations of our life. These both are not permanent. After some time, the footprints, they vanish. When the water comes, they vanish. Or when the wind comes, they vanish. They are not permanent in the sand. In the same way, our difficult times, after some days, they go up, they go, and new or good moments in our life will come. So, to show that, the writer used the title of the poem, Footprints in the Sand. That the difficult times are not permanent, our sad moments are not permanent, and our footprints in the sands are also not permanent. So, this is, see, there's a very deep thought in the poem. Now, what message is the writer conveying with the poem Footprints in the Sand? So first, the poet offers comfort to the people who are grief stricken, who are sad. It is giving much needed comfort to every reader. Whoever reads the poem, they get a kind of solace or comfort. So, and expresses faith in the God. So, our poet expresses faith in the God. How she expresses faith in the God? By following the God, and in the ending lines she reveals that the God comes and helps us in difficult times. So in this way she expresses faith in the God. And now let us look at some questions. There are 5 questions. We have read all the poem. Go through these 5 questions. I'll give 3 minutes time. Think what answers come to your mind. Now look at the first question. Where is the poet walking? Where is the poet walking? The answer is what is the answer? Where is the poet walking? Along the beach. How is the sky? The sky is dark. It is told in the 3rd line of the poem. The sky is dark. Next question. How many members are walking in the beach? How many members are walking in the beach? Two. In the dream, only two people are walking. It is said in the poem. Nothing is discussed. So, who are those two people walking? The poet and the Lord. What does the poetess see in the sky? The answer is she saw the scenes from her life flashing in the sky. The poetess saw the scenes from her life flashing in the sky. What does the poetess see in the sky? She saw the scenes from her life in the sky. Why is the poetess surprised? Why is she surprised? At a certain time, she is surprised. Why is she surprised? Because there are two questions. When is she surprised? Why is she surprised? Okay. So when is she surprised? When she saw one set of footprints. When means when she saw one set of footprints, she was surprised. Okay. Why is the poetess surprised? Because she felt that the Lord has left her. He said that he will be with her, but he left her in times of trouble. That's why she is surprised. I felt that the Lord will be with me in trouble always. Not trouble, but always. But during the difficult times, the Lord left her. So with this, she was surprised. So she was surprised at the Lord leaving her alone in the difficult times. This is the answer. Now next question. There are the top one is also a question. 1, 2, 3 and 4 questions are there. I'll give 2 minutes time. You think about those questions. What is the question? How many sets of footprints does the writer see in difficult times? So the writer, here the poet, it is better we use the word poet. The poet saw only single or one set of footprints in difficult times. The next question. Who carries the poetess in difficult times? Who carries her in difficult times? The Lord or the God. The God or the Lord carries her in the difficult times. What does the Lord reply? So, what does the Lord reply in the end? The Lord replies that he was carrying her in the difficult times, and the footprints belonged to him and not of the poet. What did you understand about the Lord? What do you understand about the Lord? So, what we understand from this poem about the Lord, that the Lord always helps the people who are in trouble, and Lord never leaves us in trouble. Okay, now let us have some of the questions. Look at some. These are short answers. To understand the poem, we have gone through those questions, but there is a possibility of long answers. The questions may be like this. Explain when and where the speaker notices two sets of footprints. Or describe the reaction of the speaker when she sees only one set of footprints. Another question may be like this. Narrate what the Lord says to his precious child about one set of footprints. There may be a possibility of some other questions like this. Summarize footprints in sand. Explain what does the writer convey through the poem. Or does the poet has faith in God? In the poem Footprints in Sand, explain. So these are some possible questions from this poem. I think you have understood well the poem. Thank you for patient listening and hope you understand. Thank you.